Here we are in downtown Ottawa. Oh, the banner's backwards. Okay, well, it's kind. Oh, it's facing traffic. Okay, well, here we are outside of. We're on our way to Catherine McKenna's office. We see a Labrador flag being carried there, but yes, let's turn it around and we can let people who are watching know what's going on. Muskrat Falls equals death by drowning and mercury poisoning, and we're going to the office of Catherine McKenna, who is the Environment Minister, and Ms. McKenna is responsible for signing the Minamata Convention, which obliges her by law to eliminate the risk of mercury poisoning. And we're just waiting outside of Ms. McKenna's office. We've got a call in. Here we are. It wasn't locked last time you were here, eh? Okay.
They're like shutting down the office when they know we're coming so they don't have to deal with it.
Okay.
Or be accountable in any way.
Tricia, what do you have in your hand there?
Oh, I have the convention that you were just telling me about.
Yeah, the Minamata Convention. And we'd like to share that today with Catherine McKenna. This is Catherine McKenna, the Minister of the Environment, and this is the Minamata Convention.
And you were telling me she did sign it.
Yes, she did sign it, and it's legally binding.
Okay, so what is it about?
So what's up with that indeed? And when we actually look at the problem, let's look at what happens with methylmercury. It's a very potent neurotoxin with severe effects that can lead to kidney and liver failure, endocrine disruption, cardiovascular problems, neurocognitive delays in children, including reduced verbal function and memory, long-term IQ deficits, and attention deficit disorder. Let's go over here and see if we can can we have someone with the Muskrat Falls water join us, and we'll go and see if they'll answer us at the other door today. Well, we seem to be locked out, but if someone's got Muskrat Falls water, Randy, do you want to join me and a few others? Tricia, you've got the convention. We're going to go over here. Okay. All right. Ring the door. They seem to have oh, there we are. Hi there. Hi, can we speak to you, please?
I'm in a meeting.
Yes, we just like to come on in, Randy.
No,
come on in.
I'm meeting somebody right now.
No, but we'd like to come in.
I don't want him to come in. I'm not comfortable
But
with that.
we have a constituent here. Tricia and Randy are constituents, and they just need to
meet with you. I'm happy to meet with you directly after this meeting. I'm
well,
meeting
how about
with a
we can
gentleman
sit
about
in here in the air conditioning?
about a sensitive topic, and then I can meet with you.
We have a sensitive topic as well, and we appreciate you're probably in a private meeting, but if a number of us can sit inside.
But we're meeting right here, and I'm a caseworker here, and I often meet with constituents, and right now I'm doing that.
Okay, so
and if you don't mind, could you just wait, and then I will meet with you.
Okay.
Are your people available in the office?
I'm the only person here, and that's why I'm not comfortable with multiple people coming in.
Okay. Usually there's someone who works in the other office over there. You're always
This
very,
office
yeah.
is the MP's office. This is Yasser Nakfi's office.
Okay, you're not.
So I'm the only one here.
Is there anyone in Ms. McKenna's
keep that
office
in mind.
today? Is there anyone in Ms. McKenna's office
there
today?
are.
Well,
Yeah.
they're not responding. Are you able to just kind of send a dingle down that way and
If
just?
I can close the door, I will
Sure.
call them and then I
We
will
appreciate
tell
that because we'd like to meet with Ms. McKenna or a representative. Thank you. So we're continuing on with our journey, trying to find what's going on. That was Yasser Nakfi's office. He's an attorney general who wants to build more jails in Ontario to throw more Indigenous people behind bars. Let's see what's going on here in Catherine McKenna's office. There's clearly people in there today. Ria, it sounds like you're a bit frustrated with what's going on here today.
Yes, I am. We all should be screaming, really. When people know what is really going on there, and so tragic. Yes, we know it is very, very, I don't know what the population is, but it is, of course, very thinly populated. But they are the forgotten people. And look what Mr. Trudeau and every one of the officials in various levels of government have promised to do for our First Nations people. Well, then this is one that to me is a good example, where we could show that we mean it and that we really hold on to the UNDRIP as well. So that's why I'm here.
And for those who are watching, what is UNDRIP?
The United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And it says very clearly in there how much right the indigenous people have, not on their lands where they live on top, but also what is underneath.
Right, and what's the cornerstone of UNDRIP?
Free, prior, and informed consent.
And I know that you've been at this office numerous times before, whether it's Kinder Morgan or Site C or the other things that are taking place across this land called Canada. Are you hearing that Indigenous people have given their free, prior, and informed consent for any of these projects?
No, not even for Kinder Morgan. There are some people, some First Nations people who are in favor of it, but they are not outnumbering the ones.
Yeah.
Who really see what it brings to the future of their lands and their people.
Okay, thank you, Ria, for being here. And you have an RCMP supervisor as well as numerous police here to protect Ms. McKenna from the truth of what's going on here. And I'm just going to go over here. Randy, I'm just wondering if I can ask you a question. I see you've got a bottle there of methylmercury water, and what are you hoping to do with that today?
Well, I'm hoping to bring this into Catherine McKenna's office and share some of the water with her. That Indigenous communities up in Muskrat Falls are subject to facing every day of their lives, putting them in danger and putting whole communities downstream in dangers. And I think it behooves Catherine McKenna to open the door and let us in and listen to these concerns, as the Minamata Convention restricts this kind of project from happening with the dangers of mercury.
Absolutely. Well, we'll keep ringing that door, and we actually do have the number for Ms. McKenna's office, which is in my bag, and I'll just get out a flyer for that. There's some flyers. Thank you very much. The half-page flyers. I'm going to go over here and speak to Helen. Helen, I see you've got a Labrador flag. What brings you out here today?
How outrageous on every level the whole Muskrat Falls project is. Every level. Economic, social, political, never mind justice and Aboriginal rights and the wisdom of Aboriginal people saying, don't do this to our earth.
And I understand you're familiar with Labrador.
Well, I've only been there once and only for 10 days in the winter, which was wonderful.
Yes.
But I do spend part of every year in Newfoundland.
Yeah, and is this a big issue that people are talking about in Newfoundland and Labrador?
It certainly is. For one thing, it's going to, even quite apart from all the justice and humanity reasons, it's going to continue to bankrupt the province, and the people of Newfoundland and Labrador are going to be paying outrageous prices for hydroelectricity as a result of this for decades to come. Even the official documents say that.
Right. Yeah. And I'm wondering, Tricia, can you give the office number to Joe?
Yes.
That's the wrong one, but there is another one in there that talks about today. Sorry about that. And what we're going to start doing here is starting to tape the pictures of Labrador land protectors who are at risk onto the front windows of Ms. McKenna's office, because if we can't bring them inside, at least those walking by will be able to see them. So if anyone does have some pictures that they'd like to start taping up onto the walls out here, I'll just leave this with you, Joe. And Joe, of course, is someone who was with us on Parliament Hill 3 weeks ago, and I believe you were arrested as well.
Absolutely.
And why were you arrested? Why did they arrest you?
Because we weren't supposed to go into the House of Parliament.
The House of Commons?
House of Commons, our House of Commons.
Yeah, that's pretty outrageous. And what were you trying to do in the House of Commons?
We just wanted to hand out information, try to call to the attention of all the different members this terrible situation.
Yeah.
Which we're here today because it's totally against the declaration signed to eliminate mercury poisoning.
Yeah.
So it's so long to keep going with this thing when we know it's going to cause mercury poisoning.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Joe. Good luck taping up some of these pictures of Labrador land protectors, people whose lives are at risk. And we'll just keep moving around the circle. Nicole, are you able to speak today about why you're here? Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Can you come over here and we'll get the sun out of your eyes? And Nicole, you heard about this demonstration, and why did you feel it was important for you to come out here today?
I thought it was important to come out and show solidarity because the government's here to protect our people, and if it's a scenario where there's guaranteed poisoning and the health of many citizens, many taxpayers who are paying our government to help support them and protect them, if their lives are in danger, then even though my life isn't in danger, I'm here in solidarity of their lives and to promote that their lives are valuable and that our government is here to protect them.
Yes,
it's their duty.
Right on. How does it feel to know that 9.2 billion of our tax dollars is supporting this act of cultural genocide?
It's absolutely terrible. It's very disturbing as a citizen of Canada to know that that's what our government is doing and prioritizing.
And all of us are taxpayers in one way or the other, so does that make us all responsible?
It is. It makes us responsible to voice our opinion on this matter and persuade our government to actually follow the laws and follow their duties to protect everyone.
And I'm just going to pull back on your sign here. I want people to see this. Look at that. It says, after entering the base of the food web, plankton, methylmercury bioaccumulates. It concentrates in aquatic food webs and reaches concentrations of 1 million times or more those present in water. This is directly from the Harvard University report from 2016. Now, I don't know how you voted in the last federal election, but do you recall the Liberals talking about the idea of science and evidence-based decision-making? Doesn't sound like that's happening here, does it?
No.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you so much for being here. And here's a gentleman here. Would you like to say why you're here today, sir?
Well, I'm just here to support the people of Muskrat Falls. Same thing, just for solidarity.
Right.
And I like to drink water.
Yes.
Clean water.
Yes.
Very simple.
You probably don't want your food poisoned either.
Nope.
No, for sure. And as we look inside, I'm not sure if people are able to see it inside there because of the darkness in the mirror, but it's certainly, there are people inside. We've tried the air phone, but this is the transparent, accountable Liberal government in action. They're refusing to open the door and meet with individuals who are very concerned about what's going on. Over here, we see that some of the faces of the individuals whose lives are most at risk at Muskrat Falls are now being attached to the outside walls of Catherine McKenna's office. And it's really disappointing because Catherine McKenna defines herself as a feminist and someone who really values women. And if she's not listening to the women and the children, certainly, of Labrador, and that's why we're here today, because of this crime. And as you can see, we're very well protected, quote unquote, by members of the Royal Constabulary as well as the RCMP. Some of you might recall that hundreds of RCMP officers were brought in to Labrador last summer at a cost of millions of dollars. You know, this is a province where libraries are facing cuts, where women's services and other social services are under grave risk, and the government is more than willing to spend millions of dollars to arrest peaceful people who are engaged in acts of land protection, trying to save their lives, their culture, their heritage, their legacy. And that's what the government in Newfoundland and Labrador is spending their money on. And here, we're at the federal office of Catherine McKenna. And of course, McKenna represents a government that is investing $9.2 billion, $9.2 billion in the methylmercury poisoning and the potential flash flooding and mass drowning of people downstream from Muskrat Falls. So we're still waiting on Ms. McKenna. Did we ever find her phone number?
Well, I only found this.
Okay, so do you mind doing some live streaming, Tricia? And,
okay, yeah, sure.
Maybe I'll just grab that bag and we'll get the phone number.
Like
No problem at all. My
So last time we did come here for a Kinder Morgan rally, they did like welcome us. This time they're locked up in advance.
Joe, or can I borrow your cell phone?
So,
Oh, Randy? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we're going to call the constituency office.
again, it's really appalling that a Liberal government who endorses a rhetoric of reconciliation doesn't care about what is happening now. It seems that they will only take it seriously once people will start to be affected by the poisoning. It's really important to remember too that the people who are protecting their lands are like families and communities. Oh, you got it? Is that it?
No, we've got speaker.
Okay.
So we're currently calling Catherine McKenna's office. We'll see if...
This is Catherine McKenna. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. We have a number of people who are outside of the constituency office, and we just have a delivery to make, but no one is willing to answer the buzz at the door. I'm wondering if someone can meet us.
I'll have to follow up with one of my colleagues who's I think probably there. I'm at the Parliament Hill office.
Oh, you're at the Parliament Hill office. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we are here. The lights are on. There are people inside, but no one, they knew we were coming because they called the police and the RCMP because they were afraid of an outbreak of democracy. But we're very concerned that we have an opportunity to meet. We have constituents here from Ms. McKenna's writing, and they're being turned away. No one is answering the door.
Okay, I'll follow up with my colleagues who are normally there and see what's going on.
Yeah, well, I know that the office closes at 4, and we just want to make a quick delivery. Are you familiar with the Minamata Convention, sir?
I must admit I'm fairly new to this office, so it's not something I'm up to speed with, no.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a convention which obliges Canada legally not to poison people with mercury poisoning, and Catherine McKenna signed it 14 months ago, and she said, we will do everything in our power to prevent mercury poisoning, and yet in Labrador, the Trudeau government is supporting a dam, Muskrat Falls, which will definitely poison with methylmercury poisoning all of the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people who live downstream. So we just want to make sure that Ms. McKenna has actually read what she signed and is aware of her legal obligation not to support this dam with $9.2 billion in federal monies.
Understood. I'm sorry, I'm just writing down notes right now because this is a little bit new to me.
Okay, sure.
So, I mean, I'm obviously happy to share that with my colleagues who are here, including the minister. With regard to the delivery that you're attempting to make, I have to admit I'm not 100% sure what's going on in that neck of the woods of the neighborhood.
Right.
So, I mean, I will certainly get in touch with those who are normally there and see what's going on.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, and I know they close at 4, so and we do have people who've got dental appointments and jobs and other things we've got to get back to, so that would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, not a problem at all, and thank you for contacting us.
Okay.
I'll try to get to the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Bye-bye. That was the Parliament Hill office, so I'll try the other office now.
okay.
I'll just try this office. Thank you. 6, 1, that's the 996, 946, 946. Looks like we've got quite a few faces of Labrador that are going up on the walls.
So those are some of the faces of people who will be affected by the Muskrat Falls dams, which will create methylmercury poisoning.
We've got more pictures, Joe.
We're working on it.
Oh, okay, great.
A lot of them are land protectors, and you can see some with their families. Those are their hunger strikers, so remember. Unable to take your call during their working hours. I'm sure there's someone in there.
Hi folks, there's a group of people, including constituents of Ms. McKenna, who are just outside your door, and we know that you know that we were coming because you called the police and the RCMP because you were a bit afraid of the outbreak of democracy that might happen here today. But we do have copies of the Minamata Convention that we'd like to present to Ms. McKenna, as well as a bottle of Muskrat Falls methylmercury water. We'd like to see if Ms. McKenna thinks that it would be okay for her constituents to drink it, and if not, why she thinks it's okay for the people downstream downstream of Muskrat Falls to drink poisoned methylmercury water and to rely on a country food web which will be contaminated with methylmercury as well. So we're right outside. We can see on the inside, but you know, wanted to do what's friendly, and the Trudeau government said that you would be very accessible and accountable. We'd like to just talk with you for a couple of minutes. You're turning away your constituents. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Thanks, Randy.
Oh, there was a Newfoundlander who came by.
There was a which?
The one which was honking the horn from Newfoundland.
Oh, good. Good.
So it's 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and no one's here to answer or reply to us or take our delivery. So,
and this is one of our deliveries. We want to see if Ms. McKenna or any of her staff would be willing to drink from this bottle of methylmercury contaminated water. Because if they're not willing to do that, the next question is, why are they willing to put this into Indigenous communities downstream of Muskrat Falls in Labrador? And you know, if we actually look at my very disorganized bag, a lot of people might remember, even if you don't live in Toronto, that last week there was a front page news headline, a very important story. And here it is: Mercury's heavy toll on grassy narrows. Residents report more suicide attempts, worse health than other First Nations landmark survey finds. And what these medical people and scientists did is they went to the community of Grassy Narrows, which has been poisoned by methylmercury and mercury poisoning for 4 decades. And the federal government and the Liberal government in Ontario, where we're currently having an election, have literally done nothing to help. It is disgraceful, absolutely. And this is a fairly long article, but I'd like to quote from someone who said that this is a community faced with a stark choice, said Craig Benjamin, who is the Indigenous rights campaigner for Amnesty International Canada. Either eat contaminated fish and risk severe physical harms, or abandon traditions that are central to who they are and which are supposed to be protected in Canada as constitutionally protected rights. So even under the colonial constitution, there are rights that are being violated. There are rights that are being violated under UNDRIP, which is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which the Trudeau government has signed on to, which the Trudeau government has said we support Bill C-262, which is the bill by Romeo Saganash, the NDP MP, to adopt and implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And a key cornerstone of that, of course, is free, prior, and informed consent. Now, Mr. Trudeau calls himself a feminist, and any self-respecting feminist knows what consent means. It means the individual knows going into that relationship what is going on. They give prior consent to what goes on, and it's informed. And as with any consensual relationship, any individual has the right to say no at any stage of the process if things get unsafe, whether that's a personal relationship or a respectful nation-to-nation relationship. So we're calling on the feminist in the PMO, the self-declared feminist in the PMO, to respect this concept of consent. Mr. Trudeau campaigned on it, and he said, oh, we're absolutely going to respect that. But once he got into a position of power, like a lot of guys who get into a position of power, they stop respecting the idea of consent. So that's a cornerstone here that Catherine McKenna is not respecting either. So we're still waiting. We'll knock again, and you know, people going by, absolutely. Muskrat Falls is a federal offense. Absolutely is. Yes, absolutely. And in the meantime, Martha, would you like to talk about why you're here today to Tricia?
Yeah. Yes, I have been looking online about methylmercury poisoning and dam development, and it is possible to clean. That is the reason why this methylmercury is produced. Looks like the topsoil has a contamination with mercury everywhere because of the time we were using lots of coal. And if you remove this topsoil, it's possible to have that is, the topsoil react with the water when it's covered by water and then produce the methylmercury that poison the rivers. If you remove this topsoil, it's possible to get to avoid the methylmercury, but that is very expensive. And that has to be, that is, if you really want to develop a dam, that is the first thing you have to do. That is, use this money to clean the topsoil first, and then allow the water to run over the soil. Anyway, that's one of the reasons why I'm coming. My major reason is I have a question why. Because our government and Mrs. McKenna, they are all young people. I belong to another generation. I belong to the generation when we were taught that indigenous people were all wild humans that were waiting for the Europeans to come and instruct them. At the time they were stealing everything. But she belongs to these generations that they are, I think, are better informed and that recognize that everybody is, we are all the same, we are all equal. And why is she ignoring them? I think she's not going to like the idea of somebody from the space come and take over our country and just use our resources, steal what is valuable, destroy what is not valuable, and stay here for their good, ignoring what we are willing to do. That is basically, my question is why they are supporting this kind of activities when they don't want that on their own.
Thank you. So we have most of the pictures up. Muskrat Falls is a federal offense. Try to take a whole screen out of it. So they are stuck on Catherine McKenna's office. Someone's asking, show us the phone number again. Okay. Do you have the phone number? Is it the same that's on the flyer?
The last phone number in the group of three.
Like this one? On the flyer? Or
The
no?
last one? Yeah.
No, I don't have it. I only have the two flyers.
And I'm wondering, maybe we should put some faces facing inside as well. Do we have any more pictures? Yeah, so why don't we put some pictures on the window?
The people watching want the phone number and an email. But I
Okay.
don't know where
The
it is.
phone number to call Catherine McKenna, for those who are watching, is... One second, please. There we go. If you're watching, so this is the MP's office.
Okay.
The second one is the Environment Canada office, and the third one is the constituency.
Okay, so the third number here, 613-946-8682, is to call this office, this one that we are at, and we're not being let in. So 613-946-8682. So we don't have her email here, but you can also tweet her on anything on Facebook, but tweeting her, any form of contacting her is useful. So we're still gonna keep putting up pictures.
Anyone who is
So-
leaving here today will definitely see
So again, the Liberal government, you've heard the Liberal government use the language of nation to nation, or even self-determination sometimes. So one of the most basic things, as Matthew was saying, if you speak of self-determination, is that a community or a nation is able to say no, and that no is going to be respected. And if we understand that, if we understand consent between relationship between people, then you just have to apply it on a bigger scale, that an Indigenous community in Canada is able to say no to any project that they want. It's really important to remember too that the Army was also involved in shutting down the resistance at Muskrat Falls. So the RCMP and the Canadian Army cooperated in protecting Nalcor, the corporation. So these people are people protecting their families, who are thinking of generations way ahead of themselves, right?
So although they're not in full.
But they're being criminalized just on May 7th.
The Frere Jacques Muskrat Falls. You believe in non-violence like me, right? Yes, okay. All right. Okay. Ready? Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, stop the dam, stop the dam. Fish and seals, river streams, methylmercury poisoning, stop the dam, stop the dam. Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, it will drown, it will drown. All of those who live downstream, genocidal white man's dream. Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls. Set them free, set them free. Let the waters win their flow. They know where they need to go. Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls.
Sorry? Oh, another sheep.
Jailing elders is a crime, as is silence yours and mine. Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls. Speak up now, speak up now. Inuit and Innu need all our solidarity. Muskrat Falls, Muskrat Falls. That penultimate verse about stopping the trials, actually this morning in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, at the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador, land protectors actually had to be in court once again. So since October of 2016, individuals who have had the gall, the nerve to just be on their own land conducting ceremony have faced criminal and civil charges under a very repressive injunction which was brought in by NALCOR, which is the Provincial Crown Corporation, and that is being enforced with the federal support of the Royal Canadian, or the Racist Colonial Mounted Police, or actually, let's make that again, the Racist Colonial Misogynist Police. Yes, I think that covers most of their bases, and there's probably a few more. Those of you who've been following the RCMP know that over 1,000 women who have worked in the RCMP have come forward to talk about violence done to them as members of the force by male members of the force. So the violence that is outwardly done by the RCMP is inwardly targeted against women, LGBTQ, and others who do not fit the white male paradigm of the racist, colonial, misogynist police as well. That's what billions of dollars is being used to arrest Indigenous people across this land. There's a new book that has come out from Fernwood Press. I urge all of you watching to get it. It's called Policing Indigenous Movements, and it's done by Fernwood Press, and there are two Carleton University folks who have written this book, and it's an astounding catalog of the way in which Idle No More, the folks at in New Brunswick who were trying to stop the frail gas fracking on their land, the folks who are dealing with Trans Mountain Pipeline, as well as missing and murdered Indigenous women, have been treated as a state security threat by CSIS, by the RCMP, by provincial police forces. So if you do not have it yet, get Policing Indigenous Movements by Fernwood Press, and you will see a pattern in which what we have seen, especially after 9/11, with the targeting largely of South Asian individuals and Muslims, or those perceived to be Muslims, is being extended to Indigenous people. And I should kind of codify that by saying it's not really being extended. The whole basis of treating the other as a state security threat goes back to the very founding of this colonial state in Canada, in which Indigenous people have always been seen as a threat because of their connection to the land. And so we're here today still trying to get in to see the colonial minister of destroying the environment, Catherine McKenna. We've done everything we can. We've called, we've emailed, we've put the faces of those who are most at risk downstream from Muskrat Falls, so they will absolutely see those faces on the way in, and anyone going in will see them here as well. Does anyone have a watch? Yeah. Okay. Still no response. So we're probably going to, we originally said we would stay here till 4. So for those of you who are watching, you might want to tune in around 4 o'clock again, and we will go live with a conclusion. But thanks for watching, everyone. If you haven't had a chance, do we want to repeat those phone numbers so that people can call the minister? There we go. Where is that one with the minister's phone numbers? Here we go. So those of you who are watching, here are the numbers. You can call the parliamentary office at 613-996-5322. You can call the Environment Canada office at 819-938-3860. And you can call the constituency office at 613-946-8682 and ask why Catherine McKenna's staff is afraid of accepting a piece of legally binding United Nations treaty on preventing the crime of poisoning by mercury through the Minamata Convention. So we'll tune in about 10 minutes or so. Everybody grab some water, which we hope is clean. We know that there are hundreds of communities across this land where the water is still not clean because we would rather put billions into the war machine and into the racist, colonial, misogynist police as well. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.